Welcome. My name is Spencer Brewstead, and welcome to Kingdom Builder. Today we're going to be teaching you how to play Kingdom Builder, as well as play Kingdom Builder. And today, my friend Pudding here, he's an Emperor Penguin, he has decided that he wants to play this game. He wants to work on building up his great penguin empire. So who am I to argue with the Emperor? So, today he's my opponent, and even though technically I'm older than him, I would technically go first, but since he's the Emperor, he is going to go first. How does this game work, Kingdom Builder? What do you do in this game? Well, you're going to be putting down these settlements, and you're going to be building your kingdom with these settlements. And there's a lot of rules, but not too many. First of all, each player will start with one of these settlement cards, and they're going to look at them. And they're going to place three settlements each time for each terrain card, and they only get one terrain card per turn, but they're going to place 3 settlements on that terrain. They can choose which terrain they want. They can choose which of the terrain sections. So like, for instance, mine is the desert. I have to place these 3 on the desert, but there's some desert here, there's some desert here, there's desert up there, there's some here, there's some over there, there's some down here by this tower, and there's some over here as well. And so that's what I'll get to choose. I'll get to choose where to put down. But once I start placing them down, when I get another terrain card on my next turn, like let's say this was the next one, Canyon, and I placed here my 3 settlements over here, I would have to place my next 3 settlements, if possible, adjacent to this. So there's a canyon here, and there's a canyon here, so I'd have to place my next settlements here or here, if possible. Now, if this was all filled up, and this was all filled up, and this was all filled up, and I still had to place it in a canyon, but there was no canyon in this area, or no desert in this area because I had to place it in a desert, then I would be able to move somewhere else and settle down somewhere else. But I have to place my settlements adjacent to my other settlements, if possible. That's how that works. That's the adjacent rules. Now you'll notice there are definitely some things here besides just simply terrains. So, first of all, there is canyon terrain. This is a canyon terrain. This is the grass terrain. This is the flower field terrain. This is the forest terrain. Okay? And obviously this is the desert terrain. And you can't place on ocean, on water, unless you have a particular tile that lets you. But in this game, we do not have the harbor tile. So, what's this tile over here with the hex? That's a castle tile. There's nothing too special about it. But at the end of the game, for each of your settlements that are adjacent to the castle hex, you'll get 1 gold. And in this game, whoever has the most gold wins the game. So that's one of the ways you'll get gold, is having your settlements adjacent to these castle hexes. And each of these 4 sectors, there's 4 sectors in this game, you get 4 of these panels, and you put them together, and there's 8 altogether. So you won't even necessarily be playing with everything that this game has to offer in each game. You won't be able to. So each time you play this game, it'll be a different game, because there are different types of tiles that you can get. And we're only playing with some of the tiles. So that's one of the things that's really so cool about this game. Oh, and this is a mountain terrain. You can never place on the mountain terrain. So that's another thing. And obviously water requires you to have a harbor to place in water. And there is no harbors in this game. This is a tower. So when you place a settlement next to the tower, you'll get to take one of these tiles. One of these little tiles. And these little tiles are actually extra actions that you can take on your turn. And since there are 2 here, it is possible that you could take both of them. But here's the thing. Player 1, for instance, can only take 1 of these towers on this spot. That means if he placed another settlement nearby in his next turn, he would not be able to take the next tower from here. But you see there's another tower up here. Since this is a different spot, on his second turn, if he placed settlements nearby this one, he would be able to take up this one. So that means if the other player playing the game wants to get the second one, they can if they're able to place nearby. Meaning here, 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 or here. It'd have to be adjacent to them for them to receive it. And when you receive this extra action token here that lets you do something cool, you'll never get to use this extra action on the turn you acquire it. But you will be able to use it on the next turn and every other turn after that. So this is an extra action you'll be able to take for the rest of the game after the turn that you acquired it. So that's really cool. So what does this tower hex do? This tower token do? Well, what it lets you do is if you flip it on the other side, it even tells you what it does. Now, for a larger representation of this, since this is so small, we have the larger representation right over here with the tower on it. So you see that there's a settlement here. This means that with this particular tile, you'll be able to take another extra settlement and place it on your turn at the edge of the board. So, for instance, I could take an extra settlement, for instance, and I could put it right over here at the end of the board. Or I could place it here, because that's also touching the edge of the board. Or even over here, for instance. Or I could do it on this corner, etc. So that's really cool that you could do that. And I'd have to double check, but if it's adjacent. So the adjacent rules usually still apply to these extra actions. So if you have some pieces near the edge of the board already, you'd have to place it at the edge of the board near a settlement you already have. I will look it up in the next video to double check on that. But for that one, I'm pretty sure that still applies for the tower. There's also this one here known as the tavern. You'll notice that it lets you place an additional settlement to an additional line, a horizontal or a diagonal line of 3 settlements. So if you have 3 settlements in a horizontal or diagonal line, you can place an additional settlement to add to the line as long as you can, place it there, meaning it's not water or a mountain or one of those special hexes like the tavern, for instance. But that's really cool. So that's one really extra thing. So it's like, instead of just placing 3 on a turn, with this one you'll get to place a 4th one in addition to a horizontal or a diagonal line. But if you do not have a horizontal or diagonal line to add it to, then you obviously won't be able to take the action. And then, so that's the tower action, the tavern action. Then we also have the grassland action here. This one will allow you to place an additional settlement in a grassland. But, like I said, this is also definitely applies to the adjacent rule. So if you have a bunch of settlements in another terrain near a grassland, then you would have to place that additional settlement adjacent to those settlements in the other terrain. That's something to note. But if you do not have any grasslands near your settlements, then you can place that extra settlement anywhere else. So that's cool. As long as there's grassland, obviously. Then, this one is exactly the same as that farm over there. The oasis over here is exactly the same, except instead of grassland, it's going to be desert. So that's cool. So those are our 4 extractions that you could possibly take in this game. And I will make sure and double check and get back with you guys on if the tower is included in the adjacent rule, like the oasis and the farm. And basically, even the tavern would count adjacent because you'd have to be continuing the train, if you will, of settlements you have. So, we will get back to you in the next video, and we'll probably get started too. So I've pretty much explained all the rules. Oh, and we will go over these 3 cards here as well in the beginning of the video as well for the next one. Alright, see you soon.